But today we do have a special guest from the company Transferroom, Charlie Harris.
We've been described as the LinkedIn of football. We've also been described as the TINDER of football. The best way to sort of describe it is how you would go on FIFA and you'd see what your FIFA profile looks like. But we've got our own sort of version of that. We're trying to be that sort of secret little partner, I feel like, within football clubs. 126 leagues and in 80 different countries. And they can create an advert, say, for example, Bryon will say, we're going to look for a left back. Oh, there's no way Brighton's under 21s are going to lose to Horsham, but it's a hell of a game every week. If they get one player brought in and they manage to sell him on for X amount of million, they can build a new training ground off the back of it.
Yes, people, welcome back to Ball Talk with me, Lewis Bryon, and for today's Insight episode, I'm once again joined by St Albans striker Ken Charles. Noah Jones is behind the camera, but today we do have a special guest from the company Transferroom, Charlie Harris. How are you, mate?
Yeah, all good. Thanks for having me along, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We're going to be talking all things transfers from like academy football up to first team, and of course what exactly your company or the company you work for, Transferroom, does. Let's get into that. What exactly does Transferroom do? Yeah,
it's quite eclectic. It's quite busy kind of thing with what we do. So we're a sort of a networking marketplace for football clubs, agencies, and now players and staff there to sort of network themselves across the world, make football a slightly smaller space, and help football transfers sort of move along, kind of thing. And been going about 7 years now, so it's been good. Yeah.
So what's your specific role with it?
Yeah. So my title is player relationships manager. So it's slightly weird job title, but my job is to sort of get players onto our platform and sort of showcase what we can do and share a little bit about how we can help players within the transfer market themselves, kind of thing, and understand a little bit more about what clubs are using us for and help them actually take a bit more control within it. Yeah,
so say if I'm a player of, I don't know, if I'm a young player who's just been released from an academy, how do you work with them, or how do you work with any players?
Yeah, so we can use the academy sort of feature quite easily. Because at the moment that's where I'm really specifically working with and traveling the country to talking to
different clubs.
Yeah, so going around the country talking to clubs at the moment. So I've had I think in total we just hit 50 actually this week who've booked us in. So whether we've either completed about 20 and we've got another 30 to go to, which is great. So we're basically speaking about what my journey was within football, and also how Transferroom can help them going forward and how we can keep them playing professionally for as long as possible. So we've got sort of a marketplace with where they're able to sort of sign up to their profile and claim their own profile on the platform. So similar to, the best way to sort of describe it is how you would go on FIFA and you'd see what your FIFA profile looks like. But we've got our own sort of version of that, and it's all our own data and stuff like that. So you'd sign up. It's completely for free, which is nice and helpful for the players as well. So they'd sign up to this, be able to see what they can compare themselves to other leagues, other countries across the world, other specific players. Connect with an agency if they need to, and then also be able to understand what leagues could be best for them and declare some interest into those leagues as well. And then the clubs in that league would be able to then contact them from that for us who are on our sort of platform as well. So it's basically connecting people together and allows players to sort of take a bit more control and not have to rely on someone else to always do the work for them, especially at academy level where sometimes agencies have got bigger fish to fry, which is normal within football.
Yeah, so if you say so it's similar to how you see a FIFA rating.
Yeah.
But who decides, if I'm a player, can't I just put all my stats to 99?
Yeah, so I'd love to do that. That would be really helpful, because I'm sure I could then speak to some better clubs from and stuff like that. So sadly not. We've got partnerships with loads of data companies and stuff like that. So we will be videoing games and then taking all the data from that game and stuff like that. So your rating, if you're a player, will go up and down on a weekly basis depending on how you've got on the Saturday. So it's quite interesting.
So updates weekly?
Yeah, exactly that. So we update that close to everything. Obviously we've got much more coverage in the Premier League than we do in, for example, in the under-18s league in England, but we are still covering sort of all levels of football and able to help every single level of football out, and all players will be able to then see what they can do and what they can go to, what their rating means in regards to the representative league they're currently playing in and what potential leagues they could go to as well.
Yeah, so it's like a LinkedIn but for football transfers. Pretty much.
Yeah, we've been described as the LinkedIn of football. We've also been described as the TINDER of football, which is yeah, exactly that. The reason,
I'll tell you what, that'd be good. Just club managers just swiping left or right on players based on their FIFA card.
And that is genuinely how things can work with us.
Way.
So like, players will be like sort of clubs will be able to pitch players from agencies and stuff like that, and then they'll make a decision off the fact of their profile, their ratings, and then some sort of data that comes along with it, and they'll go yes, no kind of thing, swipe left, swipe right. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. You've picked that up quite quickly. That LinkedIn and Tinder there as well.
Yeah. So Ken, you play in National League South at the moment. Mm-hmm. So if he at the end of the season wanted to move, and like the clubs that like approached Ken weren't the right options for him, he could then go on this and then speak to other clubs or speak to other agents. Yeah,
exactly that. So I'm not 100% sure Ken's current sort of situation with agencies and stuff like that, and also with your contract with clubs. But if you're out of contract, that's what we want to help out players in regards to that as well. So we don't want to be sitting here saying like, Ken, look, right, you're going to move today. Yeah. We're leaving St Albans, we're annoying them kind of thing. That's not what we're trying to do. Yeah. However, we're providing players a little bit more protection before that. So like, for example, end of the season comes around. If you've had a great season or you've had a mediocre season or somewhere that hopefully we're looking at great season rather than that, and you're looking to maybe make a step up, your agency would be quite often the ones who are going to push you, and we're able to then sort of assist them as much as possible and showcase to you where your talents could be best suited, and then also access to actually push that forward as well. So it's trying to make it a little bit easier and a bit smoother within football, because we all hear about like, right, you've got a great agency at the moment and they've got great connections with 6-7 clubs, but those 6-7 clubs aren't really interested in you. Okay, what happens next? Yeah. So what situation do you put yourself in? We've got over 800 clubs across the world who we work with. Now, are you going to be best suited to all 800? Probably not, but there's going to be some extra ones on there that your agent maybe doesn't have. So that's where we can definitely help out for it. And yeah, St Albans are a customer of ourselves as well. Yeah. So we work with them already and help with regards to their recruitment. And so hopefully not going to annoy them today by saying we're going to move their striker on, but yeah, this is where we can help out. Yeah.
If they ever look for any strikers, shut it down. They've got one over there. They don't need any more.
They've got one, exactly that. So
how respected is Transferroom by clubs? Like, do they really use it and take it in, or is it still something that's growing?
Because I've never heard of it. I never heard of it before you explained it to me.
So So it's from your point and my point of view is that we're trying to be that sort of secret little partner. I feel like within football clubs. So we've got 85% of the Prem use us. So like we're really big inside in regards to like the biggest sort of clubs in the world are using us, which is great. Respected wise, I'd like to say so. That's obviously someone maybe a little bit above me, but we're very respected in that sense as well. From our point of view, if you think. So, as an example, this time last week, we run a 3-day in-person event in Istanbul where we had over 350 clubs attend. What we did was essentially like speed dating for clubs. So they were sat down in a room, sort of massive room there, where they would be sat down, like they can book meetings with other clubs, whether that be Brighton or Arsenal kind of thing who are using it, and then also speaking to clubs in other countries and stuff like that. And so, it's really, really respected in regards to the ratings and stuff like that. But the main thing the clubs are using it for is to basically decision makers having access to each other and making those decisions and transfers really quickly, and being a real big connective site kind of thing.
Do you work with Brighton?
We do.
Because their transfers are ridiculous at the moment.
Yeah, we'd love to take that it's all through us, and that's everything. But we'll take credit for everything. But no, we're heavily involved with them. Weirdly enough, my old skipper at Brighton when I was a player, Gordon Greer, is now the head of their loans department, and he's now really, really uses sort of Transferroom really heavily. They sent out a lot of players on loan this summer, and we assisted with those as well. So. Brighton are a big user. I'm happy to be able to say that they are. We can say that, which is great. And my connection with them has really helped me out within this job as well. So it's been good.
Yeah, if we take Brighton for example, they coming up to the January transfer window, they need a left back.
Yeah.
What do? Do they basically put like an advert out on your site?
They can do, yeah. So at the very elite level, like at Brighton's level, their scouting department is hopefully in a position where they've already made these decisions, stuff like that. So we in layman's terms, yes, they can create an advert. Say, for example, Brighton will say we're going to look for a left back, so left-footed. Hopefully, that's what you're looking for first. You can then set different sort of parameters on the ad that you're looking for, say height, sort of playing style, and then previous levels. Are they eligible to play in England, like GBE status and stuff like that? And so it's really, really interesting how they can do that. And then what that can sort of lead to is clubs are able to say, we've got a relevant player for you. So we sadly maybe aren't going to show yourself there, because Ken, you're a striker playing in step 2 of non-league. We aren't going to showcase that, but we're going to say, okay, who relevant left backs across the world who could be put forward, so clubs can then pitch their player to it, and also agencies can pitch their players to it. So out of contract players and stuff like that, an agency can directly pitch their player of interest to Bryon. And that's when then the TINDER comes back in. They can then say yes or no kind of thing, and then make their own decision on that scouting network. So they're able to understand a little bit quicker what players are available, and they can also put like a price tag as well. So they could set, okay, we've got a free transfer available, we've got 15 million to spend. They can put all that for it, expected salaries and stuff like that. So yeah, it's quite a detailed advert.
Yeah.
But Brighton probably aren't going to use this summer, if I'm honest, or January kind of thing. But League One, Championship clubs, where their scouting networks are sort of maybe slightly smaller, we can definitely assist them really, really well, and we can also help out the top levels as well.
That's sick. So not to dumb it down or anything, but it's like a recruitment agency for football.
Yeah. Essentially, we're helping out in the recruitment terms of football. So yeah, completely. Yeah, it's bang on that.
That's wicked.
And it's not just, obviously you mentioned you work with 800 clubs. I think you said it's not just in England, is it? Like
no.
A lot of a good route for players who, let's say, maybe are playing lower league and want to climb up, is going abroad, isn't it? Yeah,
exactly. So we work with a lot of clubs outside of England. We've got sort of clubs in all the Scandinavian countries, which we're really heavily working with. We go as far as sort of New Zealand, Australia. We've got the USL. We've got
further.
Yeah, no, you can't go further than that. We've actually got a league deal with the MLS where all their clubs actually are covered by ourselves, and that's what they're doing. And leagues are helping out and saying providing them with more tools to sort of help out. So yeah, we cover, I think it's 126 leagues and in 80 different countries. So yeah, we're quite widespread in that.
Yeah, that's decent. Yeah, you're covering a lot.
Yeah, so this is the weird thing. So you mentioned earlier about how we're not sort of known within football players. Like, we've got this widespread coverage and stuff like that, and it's maybe from a club's perspective, they're like, well, we might need to keep this a bit quiet because they're doing so much help for us and they're really helping us out in this sense. So we need to be making sure that we're looking good.
Yeah.
But now we're opening it up to players. It's got to be a little bit different. We've really got to showcase what we're doing and really spread the word a little bit more, which is where we're helping out today as well.
Yeah, nice. I just want to touch on like the common struggles we see with sort of footballers, young footballers especially, who let's say have played for a Premier League academy, as you did, from most of their young life, and then they get released, say, just before they turn pro, and I think there's as a player in that Premier League academy, you think, right, if I get released from Arsenal, I can just drop down to Championship and go play for their first team, or drop down to League One even and play for their first team. So I'm dropping down 2 leagues. I've just come from Arsenal.
Yeah,
I'll be fine, but the reality is the clubs at them levels, Champ League One, aren't going to take you over like someone who's got proven experience there, who's played 50, 100 games.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. That is the issue we come into. Like, I'll give a really good example with some players that we've been working with, where the reason why they aren't quite making it into that first team environment is genuinely due to experience and sort of physicality sort of problems. And if you're 18 years old, how do you compare yourself to a 28-year-old who's got 350 league games under the belt, played in the Champions League, for example, and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And he's 28-year-old's body. He's filled out. He understands what his body's like and stuff like that. How do you compete with that? And that's sort of the issue you run into. So a manager can't take the same sort of gambles on you, because if you're in the position where it's the manager picks you and you mess up, you're in a position where that's on the manager there. If you're in a position where the manager sort of plays the 28-year-old and he messes up, that's sort of on the player. He should know better. So yeah, that's the issues you run into. So what you can run into as well when you sort of try and dot down leagues, like if you go from the Premier League Championship to League One, physicality actually increases in League One and League Two and in the National League and stuff like that. So, and the academy styles of football are completely different to what you're playing in the National League and League One and League Two as well, because we're in November now, we've walked in today, it's freezing cold, pitches have started to turn. Are you, as a centre-back, receiving the ball in your 6-yard box ready to play out every time, or are you on the halfway line waiting for the ball to go over your head? And making that transition is really difficult. So for players, you've got to understand, okay, where do I go next? What is the best route for me? Is it potentially like going to abroad where I'm playing in a different country, a different style of football that might suit my academy sort of knowledge more than going to League One, League Two? So yeah, this is where we can really help out and hopefully provide a little bit more knowledge for those young players to say, look, okay, this is the best route for you. And if you ever do need to drop into non-league or need to drop down the levels, those levels will always be there for you at 19, 20, 21. If you wanted to go to Iceland or Sweden or New Zealand or Australia, that's a great time to go because your responsibilities hopefully are a bit lower.
Yeah.
You haven't got a mortgage maybe just yet. You haven't got a missus and a wife and a kids kind of thing, so you can take those sort of gambles at an earlier stage and hopefully they can pay off for you in the long run, and you've played professional football for a longer time. So yeah, that's how we're trying to help out as much as we possibly can, and yeah, we can fill a few gaps in the market kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do those pathways abroad help players, like in terms of coming back? Because most players end up wanting to come back to England or maybe go back to Germany or something like that. If you go off to an Iceland straight up off an academy at like 18 or so, what is the likelihood that if you do well, you can come back?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting you asked that because we're starting at that start stage from that. But I can probably use Sweden as one of our best examples in that sense. Is sort of a Swedish club that we work with have like a 3-club tier system within like multi-club sort of teams where their only aim is to try and sell a player each year. So their only aim is to try and sell a player on every single year for like €500,000 is what their target is. So they develop players from 17, 19, 21 in men's football. And what they then use is to try and say that we understand players are going to make mistakes at young ages, but we're going to persevere with that because the sort of rewards that can become from that. And their aim is to sell a player each year, and that's why they use, again, hopefully this is where we can tie in as well a little bit. Transferroom has helped them to market their players to bigger spaces, but it depends on how well you do. Like if you're going to go out there and score 25 goals, you're going to get noticed. If you're going to go out there and be on the bench it's not going to be great for you. So you have to take the opportunity yourself, but we want to provide the players with that decision to make whether they want to go there. But yeah, it's like an option if you want to play the equivalent of National League South in England or National League North. It's probably a very similar level to sort of Icelandic top division.
Yeah.
But in Iceland, you're full-time, you're a pro, you're playing every single day and you're sort of mastering your art. And I'm sure you yourself will know if you're training on a Tuesday, Thursday and playing on a Saturday, or you've trained Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, playing on a Saturday, you're going to be sort of fitter for sure. You're going to be playing hopefully better football, and you're going to be in a slightly better position that if you ever do come back, you're always going to be in that opportunities for you. And it's never a bad thing to have more men's minutes on your CV kind of thing, no matter what the country. So,
are you seeing that more now? More players going abroad?
Yeah, so we've really had an interesting conversation that I was at this week was Arsenal. Of their 18s from of their 18s from like a couple of years ago. I think it's now 13 out of like 15 are playing abroad.
Wow.
Just due to the opportunities they're going to get. They've played for Arsenal, they've played for a massive club, and the style of football Arsenal play is very specific to them. So when you look at playing abroad, it's much more stylistically suited to them to play there. So that's where they've gone out and they've done really well, hopefully, and they've seen those sort of opportunities progress for them. We look at the best talents probably in England over the last few years has made the decision to go to Dortmund and then Real Madrid because that's what he's done in Jude Bellingham. Because he was definitely going to get the opportunity there, which in England it isn't always the case. Like this is where everyone wants to play. This is the pinnacle. So going abroad is now becoming a slightly better option for us. And the English academy system is so good. Like that's something we really need to sort of stress here. Like the English academy system is arguably the best in the world. That the average player at 18, 19, 20 who leaves the academy, no matter whether they get a pro or they don't, the average level of that player is probably better than most other countries in the world. So you're then sought after talent. So yeah, this is where we can hopefully then provide them with the opportunities to really continue playing football, and we want to help out as much as possible with that.
Yeah, and I think a message to young footballers that you're kind of touching on, it's not failure if you go abroad.
No, definitely not at all. Like, we really want to stress that, and I know from my position where I was 7-8 years ago when I was leaving the pro game, if you'd have offered me now whether I'd have gone and worked in a call centre selling gutter cleaning and playing like lower level of English football, or going abroad and going to Iceland or going to Sweden or potentially like Australia or something like that, I'd change everything and go there right now. So yeah, so that's the decision I make, and I think it's sort of a decision that's being sort of now taken a bit more seriously from a lot of players, which is great to see.
Yeah, you mentioned that obviously the level in the English academy system is very good, but we still see so many players drop out and not play football like to any serious level again. Do you think? I was having this conversation the other day. Do you think almost unless you're going to be playing for the first team in a top half Premier League side, do you think it's a better route sometimes for players to almost avoid the academy system, play a Welling or a Dartford, a National League as an academy? You're more likely to get into the first team younger and get them first team minutes, which will then, like, there's a lot of champ clubs, even lower Prem clubs, that find that them adult football minutes attractive more so than getting a 21 player to come out.
Absolutely. In regards to like the clubs wanting to look at that, so I look at Barnsley are really, really interesting with that. They're a great club for taking on non-league players and really developing them, and that's where they do a lot of their scouting. It's a very cheap way to do it from their point of view. And men's football is really interesting for them because you understand the game a hell of a lot more once you've played men's first team football. So it's interesting. I think if you are at a Chelsea or Arsenal and you're at those elite academies in the Premier League, like, I wouldn't turn that down to any kid. Like, it's the best exposure you're going to have. You're going to have mates for life for it, and the talent you can take from it. But it's interesting. There's no linear, easy route to becoming a professional footballer. Like, there's no easy way to do it. There's no right or wrong path. There's nothing that is just sort of like, right, this is exactly what you do, and this is the exact outcome that can come around from it. So I'd still say from a personal point of view, from what I've dealt with, like what academy football did for me, where I played for sort of 3 academies and what they provided for me, I still think it's probably the best route. However, the amount of players that we can see now are coming through from like your Dartfords, your Wellings, your Billy Rickies, and like from my side of things, I look at like Chatham as a really good club for bringing young players through as well. That it's a great option for you, and it's not a failure to be playing for those levels at that age, because there's a similar opportunity and stuff like that. I mean, you see it in like the senior cup games that you play. When you play against them, you play against the academies and stuff like that. You can see going, oh, there's no way Brighton's under 21s are going to lose to Horsham, but it's a hell of a game every week. And it's like the stylistic side of football is completely different. Understanding how to get 3 points is something that isn't drilled into academies probably enough just yet. So those players who are playing at 18 in the first team at National League or sort of maybe even as low as like Isthmians and Step Threes and stuff like that, at 18 those minutes are maybe more important than academy minutes at that age.
Do you think that needs to change with like academy football in terms of they're not, like you said, they're not drilled to win. They're drilled to develop the players and have good performances individually, really, and they're not really. They don't learn the other side of the game until really it's too late. Yeah,
no, I agree. I'm sure I've said we've all been in that scenario, I think, here kind of thing where you understand what 3 points means once you get to men's football and stuff like that, and if it's not drilled in by your coach kind of thing, it's quite hard to really reenact that. Is it going to pay your bills on the end of the week? That's quite important to you when it gets to that point. I think there's probably some work to do with academies in that sort of sense. Maybe better options for loan moves when players do get pros. It's really important for players to go on loan quite early, I feel.
Early as possible, yeah.
Yeah, just getting that exposure is so important, because also you're in the position where if a manager has trusted you at one point, he's going to trust you for a long time, I imagine. And then if you've been trusted by one manager, then he speaks to another manager, then he goes, right, I've trusted you. Whereas if you compare that to, okay, you've played 21s minutes in PL2 or under 18s minutes, what does that really mean? So it's hard to sort of take that on. So yeah, I think the earlier that we can sort of change academy football to try and make it as realistic as possible, it's great. And we're seeing at the moment a little bit with like the National League Cup. I'm not sure the National League teams aren't too keen on it from what I've been hearing and what I've been seeing.
However,
no, we're not. It's the National League Premier, but they're not really keen on it.
No, not at all, are they?
They just feel their players aren't getting minutes and stuff.
Yeah.
It's difficult, though. Do you think that it can be changed, or do you think the only solution is really the loan? Because at the end of the day, the clubs with their 21s or 18s, they know they're not producing a team. They're just trying to produce individuals who might play for them or get sold. So their focus isn't, can we get 3 points, and can that really change, or is it always going to be?
Don't want to change.
They don't care really. It's at the end of the day, it's, can we make 2 of these play for us in 2-3 years time?
I think that's the case, really. I think that's the reality of things. If you aren't one of those 2, 3, 4 best boys who are the best there, and that's who they're really focusing on, a lot of the lads are sort of hoping they can really get into that group and do what they can. So, but from a team's point of view, an academy's point of view, like if they get one player bought in and they manage to sell him on for X amount of million, they can build a new training ground off the back of it.
Yeah,
like
that's literally what happened with Palace.
Yeah,
they sold Aaron for 50 million, who's come through the academy. That's 50 million profit.
Yeah, and that's brilliant.
Crazy, isn't it?
But you've seen 250 boys over the last however many years, who maybe more than that, who've not made it into that extent where they've been sold for 50 million, but the return on investment for their side of things is massive. So I don't know if that is going to change. I don't think it probably is definitely going to change in the near future. But this is maybe where we step in and really help out those lads who are on the sort of the edge of things, and really can help them push forward and make sure they are playing football for as long as possible. And it's never a lack of opportunity that prevents you playing at the best level. It's lack of ability.
Yeah,
lack of ability is something we can all sort of take on the chin, really. If you aren't good enough, like, that is the case, and that's football, and that's the harsh realities of elite sport.
Yeah, it's like there's with that, like the academy playing to win or playing to develop players. There's obviously two sides to it. You either have 2 or 3 players that are well prepared for top Premier League football, or if you try and do it like as a team to win the matches as an under 18, they're all going to be sort of underprepared for that if them 2 or 3 that come through.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and if you try and like think about like recovery and stuff like that, thinking you're an under 18 and you're worried about your recovery and stuff like that, so we're going to play a weekend team this week or something like that. It's never going to happen, which is the reality. What happens at first team football. So yeah, I just think it's difficult to sort of really change that too much at the moment, and I think football is going to stay like this for a little while, I think. But the more we can do to help these players out, the better.
Yeah. What was your like personal experiences? I know you were at Brighton, weren't you?
Yeah. So for me, I've been in academies from 7 years old. So I'm sure that it was similar to everyone there. I've been released 3 times. Fulham was 7 till 14, Brighton 14 or 15 till 20, and then ended up at Barnsley on the edge of academy first team when I was up there. So, but my Brighton probably experience is the most sort of like where I was longest at and enjoyed the most as well, where spend 2 years as you become a scholar, you get 2-year pro, and it's all things looking up, and you're in and around the first team. And I'm sure there is maybe one Brighton fan who might know who I am.
Down below if you are.
Yeah, Dad's mate who's a Brighton fan, but that's about it realistically. I was knocking on first team doors under Sami Hyypiä. He played a style of football that suited me as a midfielder who was awful at running, awful physically, but technically probably at a diag, and that was about it, and that suited me quite well. And yeah, I was in and around first team as a first year pro. Played with some great players come through there. You've got the likes of Lewis Dunk, Solly March, who are sort of in the 18s when I was a 16, and then you've got Ben White, who was coming up underneath me. Rob Sanchez as well was in that team as well. So my age group wasn't the best, and we were the ones that probably filling in a little bit. I think the highest level of player we've got from my under 18 side that was an initial scholar with me, I think he's playing National League South now, in Jimmy Mewett, so I'll give him a little shout out. He's a top bloke playing at Dorking, and so he's doing that, and I think it's them after that. It's not far from myself playing like step 3, step 4 for however as long as I've played. So we also did have Christian Walton in our age group, who's now like second choice keeper at Ipswich. But again, he come in a little bit. He got bought from Plymouth, so I can't really claim him as a Brighton lad kind of thing like we were. So yeah, it was all good.
Do you think? So you ended up leaving Brighton.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think you needed something like Transferroom to like? Would that have helped you in your situation?
100% helped me probably when I left Barnsley. So which is where I left. So 18 months into my 2-year pro, I got a move to Barnsley. So I'd been on loan in the National League at the start of the year and done okay. And then Barnsley sort of, I wasn't ever going to get into the first team at Brighton realistically, and I was like at the edges of doing well in the 21s, and probably played about 70 games in that for the last 2 years. So I needed to try and get some first team minutes and first team football, and Barnsley were like interested in me, which was great. So my agency like pushed me towards there, and I went on a free transfer officially, but there was like a sell-on clause and stuff like that. Not sure if Brighton made much money out of that one. So I joined Barnsley in League One, and things were going well to start with. Lee Johnson signed me. 4 days later, Lee Johnson then moves to Bristol City. New manager comes in and just basically says, look, Charlie, look, we've got a great side here. It's going to be hard to break into. Barnsley, I think, went on to win like 16 out of the last 19 games in that season, and won the JPT, won the League One playoff final. We're in the Championship the next season, and I was in a position where I wasn't going to play first team again. I was too old for the 21s. My agent was like, yeah, look, Charlie, we've got loads of clubs interested in you. This is great, but I'm sort of lower down in the pecking order in regards to his importance. So he's got bigger fish to fry in that sense, that's football, that's life, and we've all understand that. So yeah, that's where Transferroom really could have filled in, and I'd have been able to take a bit more control and really push myself to other clubs and other leagues, because the lack of contacts I had was a real problem for me. Like, I could still play football at that age. I was still fit. I was 21. I was on the edge of a League One team, to the point where within 6 weeks of my lack of contacts, lack of know-how, I'm playing step 4 of non-league and working in a call centre trying to make some money.
That's
so
mad,
yeah. And those stories my stories is probably a little bit big, more unusual than most, but there is a lot of those stories around. They're very common.
Very
like
common.
I travel the country now speaking to player care managers, and they're like, your story, I've dealt with that 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like, and that's exactly what's happened to, there's going to be 6 players in here who are going to be in a similar scenario to you were. Like, and that's where like I go around and I sort of talk about my story and my sort of playing career and what can happen, and try and provide them with the best opportunities to use Transferroom to find the next step and make sure they're playing professionally and playing full time for as long as possible, because they are definitely good enough.
Yeah.
But we just need to find them the right club that they are good enough for.
Yeah, because a lot of, especially like if you're in a Premier League under 18 setup, a lot of them are very, I don't want to say, quite naive to the fact that, you know, like you'll come in and speak to them and say, you know, one of you might make it, and 19, 20 of you won't make it to the top level, and they all think it won't be me.
Well, they think they're the one.
They think they're the one. Everyone will think that eventually, but you can't all be the one, because there's only one. So it's then having that plan in place, or just the structure in place to look after them. Like we spoke about previously, you saying that you then went to step 4?
Yeah, step 4.
And would you say, did you feel like underprepared for step 4? Like, did you? Because obviously you didn't play much first team before that, did you?
No, so only first team football I played before that was actually in step 1, so National League. I played for Aldershot, which was actually, again, started really well, scored on my debut, got an assist on my debut. I was thinking, this level's easy. Yeah. I quickly found out it wasn't. But yeah, the second you drop into step 4, it was the hard point for me was, I went step 3 first, actually, under Jimmy Bullard. So that was quite random. Yeah, I remember waking up.
That can't have been good.
At Leatherhead. Leatherhead at Jimmy Bullard. Yeah. I remember getting a phone call from him, like random, how he got my number, I don't know. Woke up in the morning on a Friday morning, he was like, Charlie, it's Jimmy Bullard. I was like, what? Do you fancy playing against Burgess Hill tomorrow? I was like, what? Yeah, if you want. Like, cracked on. So again, started all right, played like 3 or 4 games at that, and then I started working. And then getting prepared for playing, like doing work all day, and then travelling down to, I remember we played Worthing on a Tuesday night, travelling down there after a full day's work. I was awful. Yeah. Like, I was awful. I just couldn't, managing that preparation different in non-league and stuff like that, I was terrible. I got dragged at half time after I think fell over the ball 3 times in the first half. And then, that was the realities of it. And then it was like 3 or 4 weeks later, then dropping down a league again just to come back home a little bit because the travel was a bit much. And then I think that little gap actually really prepared me quite well. But then went to East Grinstead, which is where I'm from. I played there till the end of the season. And luckily enough for myself, I was playing it for a manager who had come out of academy football. And he basically just said, look, lads, there's no budget here. We're just going to stick with this 12, 13 players we've got. We've got an average age of 19. And we would either be amazing one week and we beat teams 5-4, 5-6-0, or we'd be playing against a team at the top of the league who've got men who are just bullying you, and you could lose 4-5-6-0.
Could have had 10, 50 appearances in the champ.
Exactly. Yeah, it's what you can come up against. So I'd say preparation for that was very different. I can still remember my National League. We played Grimsby, and I've been used to, like, just no matter what, as a midfielder, like, just get on the ball and you keep the ball. That's your first job, keep the ball. I remember going the half turn on like the 44th minute. There was nothing forward, so I turned back out, played to my keeper. Just kept the ball. Wasn't a problem, I thought. Keeper's like shanked it off for a long throw. We've then conceded from that long throw, gone in at half time. I have never had the dressing down like you've ever believed at half time. And I was like sitting there going, what? I thought I'd done the right thing. And it's just, that's men's football. It's completely different. And that was, again, if I'd have been 6 weeks or 2 weeks earlier at Brighton in their academy, you'd have gone, well, that's not, like, Charlie's done the right thing there. He's kept the ball. But
that's like we were saying, like in the academy, they've got the 2-3 players they're working on who are prepared for the top level, but the others are also supposed to be prepared for that top level, don't make it, and are massively underprepared for the lower league men's football. Like, Ken, you were at Colchester, weren't you? Then what was your first like men's football experience? What level was that?
Step 3.
Yeah,
so first. Well, before I was at Colchester, I'd played a bit at Step 5 at like 16.
Yeah.
So that helped me, to be fair. But
did you feel like underprepared at all or not? I suppose it depends your style of play as well.
It depends. I was definitely, there was parts of my game that made me excel in terms of I was quick. Like, defenders at Step 3 couldn't really deal with me, especially if I was like turning them over. But then at that age, particularly in front of play, back to goal and stuff, I wasn't very good. Like, things would come up to me and I'd be trying to turn defenders or trying to just play how you'd play in the academy, which is trying to express yourself. And, it's a grown man. He just gets body in front and then I've lost the ball. And obviously at that level, managers get really wound up about that kind of stuff. So that took me a while to like actually understand that, okay, in certain positions, your job first and foremost is to keep the ball for your team and things like that. And you can go for every position. There'd be parts where you because of your academy experience, you'd be really good at, and then the other side you'd be quite bad at, like, for example, passing back to your keeper under pressure.
And that's the stuff that them managers want you to be good at, over the stuff that you are good at.
Yeah, sometimes. Exactly.
I think that's so interesting because I think football fans, amateurs like me, we don't think about that stuff. Like, you hear, as an Arsenal fan, you hear all these names in the academy. You're like, a couple of years they'll be in the first team. A couple of years later they're in like Conference League. They've just played Conference League, obviously, but I think I'm sat there thinking, why has he not just gone down to the Championship? He must be that good. Yeah. But unless you're Mal and 17 years old, a grown man coming up against you is going to bully you. Yeah. Fact, isn't it? So.
And these grown men have played at a good level. Exactly, that's the thing. It's not like they're just complete amateurs. It's like someone that at your age as well was playing at an academy and stuff. So he's not a poor player, but now he's got hundreds of league apps or whatever under his belt, and it's just. Yeah, you can't match them up. And like you said earlier, managers go for experience. When you play an 18-year-old, if he messes up, everyone says, well, why did you play him? If you play a 28-year-old, it's on the player. He's experienced. He should know better. So it's tough.
It's exactly that. I think we're in a position where, and you're seeing it now, more and more players are coming up, and that recycled, like, sort of the circle of football sort of can happen a lot of the times. And we saw, like, this summer with the PFA game, like, how many top players were there.
Yeah. Who was it? Dwight Gale.
Dwight Gale, Verrell Morrison, Carl Jenkinson. Like, this Champions League. Like, he's playing the Champions League. So it's like, how is he there? And that was something we.
Jenkinson. I didn't even realise he's still playing.
He's at Bromley now.
He's at Bromley, so we can actually help out with that. So we worked with the PFA in that sense. So we're actually now partnering with the PFA in this sense, but to actually help players in regards to that. So we went and filmed the PFA v Cambridge game, which like Carl Jenkinson, Verrell Morrison, Dwight Gale played and stuff like that. So we filmed that and then we sent it to our clubs, so they could actually access the game and the footage, and we got sort of a few players sort of contract offers off the back of it, which was brilliant. I know Bromley watched the game, so I'm not sure, we can't really claim Carl Jenkinson just yet, but like it may have helped, so that's not a bad thing. Carl's playing. He was playing centre half that day, and he was so experienced, so calm on the ball, and did really well. And I know he's then gone into Bromley recently and settled in quite well, as far as I'm aware. I'm not too up to date on Bromley facts, but. Yeah, it's interesting that you can see that sort of that constant cycle of footballers always coming in, that it's hard, that if you have made it at the top level, you're always going to find your way dropping back down. And this is where, like, when you're a young player coming through and you face that experience, it's so tough, and they know how to use their body, they understand the game, they understand the dark arts now and again as well. So Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, one of the last things I want to talk about, obviously, to do with agents.
Mm.
Okay, so and how, I know that's not your specific area, but how Transferroom works with agents, because similar to academies, they'll have their one or two, or they'll, let's say agents might sign 20, 30 players of one age,
Yeah.
and then hoping one or two gets good, and then 20 drop off, and they're now needing somewhere to go. Similar, like you said, that happened to yourself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you work with agents individually or agencies?
Yeah, so we've got over 550 agencies on the platform, so
Wow.
they pay to be pay to be on with us. So the 800 odd clubs and the 550 agencies are the people who pay to be on our platform. What they use it for is connections. Like, no matter what, you could be the best agency in the world. I doubt you've got the 825 clubs decision
You
makers.
have to go out and watch them all.
Yeah. Well, no, if you say, like, even if you want the connection to speak to the 825 clubs decision maker directly through us, that's what we can provide for them. And also understanding, like, the instant understanding of what clubs are needing. So we mentioned earlier about adverts and what they do. So we saw clubs creating adverts all summer, looking for, saying, we're looking for this player, we're looking for this player. And if you're an agency, you can then understand, okay, well, my player fits that bill. I can then pitch him to it, and then you're in front of the other agencies who don't have access to this. So this is why we're seeing agencies using us really, really heavily, and also being able to find new players. Like, you can sign up to Transferroom as a player without an agent. You can declare interest into an agency, and they can say, yeah, we'd be happy to work with you or not. And that's vice versa as well. An agency can say, oh, this player's just signed up, we're interested in him. You can find a new agent from that way as well. So it can be used as a recruitment tool for the agencies as well to sign new players with ourselves. But predominantly they're mainly using it to have access to the decision makers, increase their little black book of sort of contacts, and make sure they get the best for their player. And the more interest in their player, the better. So, but like you mentioned, there's going to be positions where sign 20 young players, and only one or two of them is going to be the ones who make it to the level where they're making the agency big money and big throughout transfers. Those other 18 need to be protected somehow, and this is how we can make the agency's job really easy, by making it really quick for them, and also the player in the same position as well. So,
would you say, so like the number one question, even I get now from like younger players is, how can you get me a trial somewhere?
Yeah.
And would you say to the majority of players, the large percentage, you can, with Transferroom, they'd be able to get them a trial at a club that they'd be happy with?
You'd hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, we run something on a trial basis last year where I was going into clubs and getting players to sign up and stuff like that, and working with player care managers to basically give them their players who've been released the previous year the best opportunity. So what we did was like an invite to trial feature on our platform, where a list of, I think there were 60 players in the end of it on this list, and we then sent this list directly to all National League North and South clubs, because we actually cover those, complete every single National League South and North club in England already. We give them the platform for free, so they have access to it, and we also included League 2 and League 1 clubs. So any academy leaver from 18 to 21 was put onto this list who we'd signed up, and then what happened was the clubs basically were able to invite them to trial. So you'd go on there and invite the player directly to trial, or the player directly through his agent directly invite him to trial. And we saw some really good players who were going there and using that sort of thing for us there. So we had, I mean, it's probably a little bit, there's one very niche player we had who moved, which was Nathan Jetchi, who'd been released from QPR. He then went and signed for Hemel Hempstead in the National League South. Is that the ideal scenario where he wants to play? Probably not, but it's now an option where he's now playing in the National League South, and he's now given himself a platform of men's football to then progress up again if he does well. So it was an opportunity that he didn't have before, but then we're now opening that up this year to all clubs that are relevant for him. So again, if you leave an academy at 18, if you left the Premier League academy, we're going to showcase show the right clubs for you, whether that be in England or maybe abroad as well. And we just really want to push that as much as we can this year and help players out sort of going forward, and whether that be trials or whether that be full contracts, depending on what you've done and stuff like that. So like the club will see your profile with your stats, and also then you'll be able to upload your own video, so you can put your own clips on there, so clubs can see what kind of player you are as well, and not just submit some written down information. Some evidence that you are who you say you are, of thing. And you can run around a little bit, and yes, you can finish and stuff like that. So highlight your best bits to the clubs, and they can take a punt on you from that. Yeah,
I mean, it really does seem something like millions of players who don't know about it would benefit from, like, massively. Yeah, it is insane.
It's what we're trying to do.
Yeah,
exactly that.
We see a lot on like Sky Sports, certain players being transfer listed, right? And I think we all sit there and go, is there a list?
Yeah.
Because I'd love to see it. Is there a transfer list?
So essentially, we like to say that when you get sort of made available for transfer, we call it on ours, is that then it goes on to Transferroom. So if you're a club on our platform and you've been made available for transfer, hopefully you've sat down with a club, you've sat down with your agent, you've sat down and you've been told about it. But what the club then do is make you available for transfer, and that can be good or bad. So for example, if you're, when we mentioned earlier, Sweden, they're trying to sell their best player each year for a profit to reinvest into their club and make some money kind of thing. Their best players can be made available for transfer every summer. So that can be the case, or it could be you're an out of favour experienced pro, you've got 2 years left in your deal, you've got a new manager coming in. Right. They're going to be in a position where they then go, right, you've been transfer listed on Transferroom, and then clubs can say, yes, we're interested, and this is where we access sort of more interest in players and make sure that transfers can happen. And we've been involved in 5,500 transfers over the last 7 years. So yeah, that can be in all different ways how we've worked, but one of them will be where players have been made available for transfer.
That's great. So technically, you are the transfer list.
What level does that go? Like, is that when Ronaldo said he wanted to leave United? Is he going on? Is he on that list?
I wouldn't say Ronaldo, because I'd hope Jorge Mendes, his agent's probably doing a better job than that. But in a position like it can be Brighton this summer, so
it will be Premier League's big.
Premier League can be doing that. Yeah, they will be using us. Again, it can be used at all levels. So every single team who has a Transferroom account has the ability to do that. So, and we do see it used a lot. So yeah, it's a really great tool and it's a really great feature, and it allows sort of clubs to make sure they're aware of what's available for them sort of as quickly as possible, and they can act as sort of quickly as possible in the transfer market. We see deadline days all around the world, like how busy and how mental they are, but there is some sort of thought and madness to that, thought to the process kind of thing as we go through it, and that's where we sort of fill in some gaps.
Is transfer deadline day a busy day for you lot?
Yeah, very, very, very busy. That September the 1st this year was a nice. I think there was a fair few people having a little bit of a day off and stuff like that. So yeah, it was enjoyable. But it's an exciting day and stuff like that. So, and you're aware of transfers sort of as they happen, kind of thing. And so it's enjoyable.
Sick, love it.
Yeah, no, I think we'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Listen, Charlie, I appreciate you coming on and telling us all about Transferroom. Where, if I was a player or club or agent listening, where can they go and find Transferroom?
So yeah, transferroom.com is the most easy way to do so. So you can go on there as a player, you sign up, it's completely for free, you request access, and there's also a Transferroom Players app. So if you went on the App Store, go on to Transferroom Player, you can then sign up through that as well, and you have access to all these different sort of data points and it's completely free. So for any professional footballer out there, it's completely free.
Lovely. Well, I appreciate the time and enjoyed the chat.
Thanks for having me on, boys.